Hey, Liberty lovers, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet and around the world via satellite radio on the Liberty Radio Network. I have a great guest coming on. Her name is Avens OBrien. She's the ex-girlfriend of past Anarchast guest Judd Weiss, and it's actually the most beautiful breakup I've ever seen in my life. We'll talk about that. So we're going to be talking quite a bit about relationships, sex, love, all these kind of things. We haven't talked about that kind of stuff in a long time. And Avens actually posted an article recently. It was called 7 Reasons Libertarian Women Make Amazing Girlfriends. And it caused quite an uproar, and a lot of bum-hurt libertarian men were saying, oh, we can't find libertarian girls, or even if we do, we can't get them in bed, and things like that. And then she posted other things. Just recently, she said 12 reasons you're not getting laid by a libertarian lady, which actually had a lot of good information on it as well. And I even had my own article on it called Libertarian Loneliness. So there's lots to talk about in terms of all that. But before we get into it all, Avens, I have to ask you, how did you become a voluntarist?
I have a really lame answer, which is my parents were voluntarists. So of course I am. I love that in the future we'll have generations of people that are able to give that answer. That's just gonna be so much more common, right? But no, I actually got into Liberty because literally my parents were. My parents were objectivists, purged from the movement, worked on the Hospers campaign. My mother considers herself an anarcho-syndicalist. My dad's a libertarian, and I literally just grew up in the scene. And so it's the only thing I've ever really known. I've considered, like, I've spent time with Democrats, I've spent time with Republicans, I've spent time with socialists, and I just go, no, I just non-aggression principle. Like, what else is there?
Yeah, it should be just obvious. I don't know why more people don't get it. It's the real only answer to how we can have a better world for everybody is just stop beating each other up and stealing from people. And we're not saying that, like, just because we're voluntarists that the world is, there's not going to be any more crime or not going to be anything. We're just saying that should be something we should strive for more. And it seems like that is always left out of the political debates because, of course, politics on its own level is violence. Government is violence. So that topic will never come up. It's always, well, maybe we should make this law and put these people in cages, or maybe we should make this law to make it so people can't do that, or maybe we should steal more money from these people. It's a crazy system, but hopefully one that we're getting out of.
Well, it's funny because I grew up with that. Like, I grew up with these just kind of logical things. So I would be talking to someone randomly. I'm like, 7, 8, 9 years old, kind of parroting what your parents say. It happens. And I'd be saying things like, well, morality can't exist at the point of a gun. It's like that Ayn Rand said that. But, like, I didn't even get it from that. I just got it from, like, the community around me and my parents. So, but, I thought about it, and I was like, of course that's logical.
Yeah, you seem like a very logical and rational person. That may be the objectivist sort of side of things. And I know that you and Judd used to be together, and then you broke up, and it was like the most glorious and beautiful breakup of all time. It was beautiful. It was like, I was like, this is so nice. Like, both of you, I'll let you explain it a bit more, but both of you wrote this like public sort of a comment or a statement on the breakup, and it was all, oh, I love this person so much, this wasn't working. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, because a lot of people when they go through breakups, it's nowhere near that peaceful.
Well, I think there's a lot of factors there. Is that Judd and I respect each other so much, and we've spent 2.5 years together, and it's generally my approach that, like, if I'm with someone and I was with someone for a length of time and I loved them, why would that change just because we decided not to have sex anymore, or not to, pursue a life together anymore? And so I think both of us, we had a talk. We'd had a number of talks over time of, like, is this working out? Is this compatibility, et cetera? And when we decided that it wasn't working anymore, we sat down very rationally. There were moments of tears, there were moments of whatever, but we just said, hey, like, how do we want to be to each other? How good do we want to be to each other? We want to be great to each other. We want to be, we want to, I don't know, we want to model good behavior. We want to be as, I don't know, it's we want to be good to each other. I just think that's how I live my life in general, is I want to be good to the people around me, and I want to inspire better behavior from the people around me. And so, like, how do I want to live my life in a way that it's the only thing I have, that I want to live my life in a way that, like, I'll really like what's said about me at my funeral. And so I live my life in a way that, what is an ex going to say about me? I want my exes to say awesome things about me. So I actually on that thread so we each posted these public statements. We coordinated them. We showed each other what was going to be in it first, so we knew. And I actually had I had an ex-boyfriend comment on Judd's and go, I can verify Avens makes an excellent ex-girlfriend. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, I almost felt like going out with you just for the breakup because it was so nice. It gave me all this warm, fuzzy feeling. And let's get to the other stuff, though, on libertarian love and loneliness, because it does appear to be a lot of it out there and a lot of angst and anger. And it's not just the guys, too. It's women. I know many women who are they say they can't find a good libertarian man or it just seems like they're not connecting very well. And I think that's strange. And first of all, on the guy side, which I'm a guy, that's the side I can talk from, is there's a ton of libertarian girls out there. Just look at the past Anarchast guests. There's been dozens of beautiful girls and women and wonderful women on Anarchast. And then if you get outside of the U.S., most people are anarchist anyway. They're just libertarian-minded anyway. It's just mostly the U.S. and the Western world where people are like that. If you go to Mexico and you meet a Mexican girl, it's highly unlikely she's going to be talking to you about how she really likes the government or how she wants to make this change in the government to tax these people more. They mostly just don't like the government at all, and that's how it is in most countries around the world. But why don't you give us your perspective on what you think the problems are in the libertarian movement?
Well, my 12 reasons is a pretty good thing. I think that I think I mentioned it in the article that then followed the 12 reasons. I've made it's been a collection of articles as I wrote that article about libertarianism needing to not just feed the brain but feed the body and the heart. And so the concept is that a lot of libertarians especially feel they come from non-libertarian environments, and there's a lot of alienation there, and there's a lot of, oh wow, like people don't think like me, and it kind of closes people off. It kind of creates this feeling of non-abundance, like there's not a lot of people like me and I'm a minority, and that makes it harder for people to kind of be good at interacting with other people sometimes. And it makes it really awkward because when there are now many more women in the liberty movement. I've been part of the liberty scene my entire life, but in the last 10 years or so, that's been most of my major activity. And I was vice chair of the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire from 2006 to 2008. And when I was, there were pretty much just a bunch of women that were married to libertarian men who were libertarians. And then there was a handful of single women. And anytime there was an event, anything was all libertarian men, and they just came for the libertarian girls. And I'm I'd like to just have a conversation that has nothing to do with the fact that I have a vagina, please. And so it was kind of awkward. And I actually, for a while, even in that scene, I had some great friends. I just said, I don't date libertarians. I'm a libertarian. And I said, I don't date libertarians. And one of the reasons was to just kind of get people off, trying to, hit on me. But then I also joked that I only dated liberals because I was going to recruit with my genitals, which is I think something Cantwell said. So so it works out. But yeah, that's my perspective, is that people sometimes just, they're not good at interacting with one another, and they're not good at just kind of opening up and finding new places to meet people and reach out. And I do think that, it's nice to be with someone who agrees with you on politics. But I mean, as you said, some people are, let's say, apolitical or anarchistic, and they just, a lot of people you can just kind of be like, well, I'm passionate about this thing. I like you. We go out, and then, hey, you start to kind of bring them into your ideas. Oh my God, there's a dog in your video.
She's chasing a fly right now. She's preoccupied.
I think that the liberty movement could do a lot if we just use dogs and cats in our videos, because the internet loves them.
Yeah, totally. Use whatever works. Yeah.
Apparently, I'm using sex a lot. That's apparently what's going to work next. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever works. I don't care. Whatever works. One of the things I was pointing out, and it's sort of a thing I noticed even beyond just libertarians, is that sorry, my driver is here asking me if I want something. Café, por favor. Uno cigarro. Gracias. Sorry, busy here today. About the guys, is that You know, it all really, I see it all over the place. It's not just libertarian, it's anyone, is that it starts with yourself. Whenever you hear someone complaining that they can't find something, the reason is because they're doing something wrong. There's everything's out there, and there's energy too, and you attract the things that you give off. And so for women, I wrote this in my article, Libertarian Loneliness, that I meet a lot of women, they're like, I just can't seem to attract the kind of guys I want. And it's like, well, you're doing something that you should change. You should figure out what it is that you're doing that's attracting these kind of guys, because you're obviously attracting them for a reason. And then with the guys, it's a lot of, I just can't, I just can't seem to get any girls that I want. And it's like, well, you're doing something wrong. Like if you're fat, hit the gym. If you're wearing a crappy old T-shirt with Rothbard on it and it's all full of stains, you wash the shirt or put on a nice shirt. So the girls like that kind of stuff. You don't have to wear a tuxedo like Jeffrey Tucker, as I pointed out, although that works for him great. Like you never hear, women love Jeffrey Tucker. You know, and he's always like the most dashing and dapper person in the room. But you don't have to be that way. But, just if you're not getting what you want, it's because you're doing something wrong, and you can change that so easily.
Yeah, and repping yourself well is a huge thing, and actually the complaining thing is it was reason number one I wrote in that article, is that like no one likes to hear complaining. Like think about it, and if you look at my Facebook, like I'll bitch about the government, but I don't complain about shit. I really don't, because it's unattractive. It's just, I'm sorry, it's unattractive. No one likes to hear, especially because no one wants to care. No one wants to know like what your problems are until we've figured out why we should care about you. Like it's just that. Like there are plenty of times that I have people in my life that I love, and they'll come to me and they'll be like, oh, I have this problem, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, I have met so many guys. In fact, I was at a Liberty event like a couple weeks ago, and I met somebody. The first thing he started doing was chatting with me about something he was upset, like complaining about his life. I was like,
oh, God.
Why would I want to be part of your life? Your life sucks.
Yeah, how do I get involved in this? This sounds like something I really want in my life, is all these problems that you've got.
It's sales. It's like, I mean, it is. It starts with you, and you try to make yourself into the best person you can be, because it attracts other awesome people. It attracts people who are like, wow, I want a piece of that. Your life looks awesome. I want to be part of it. I mean, hell, like when I met Judd, we met on Facebook, and then I was living in Las Vegas, and we were at Freedom Fest, and we were both at Freedom Fest, and like hanging out with him was really cool, because I was just like, wow, like you're doing awesome things. You're taking photos, you're talking about selling liberty, you're passionate, you're not complaining about shit. Oh wow, I want to be on the Judd train. Where's it going? Where's it going? And so, I ended up like a month later, like calling him up and being like, we should go out for dinner sometime. And we did. I asked him out, and that's, make yourself awesome so people just like gravitate towards you.
Yeah, totally. There's one guy on Facebook. I have like 5,000 Facebook friends and thousands of followers, and so I don't know him in person, but I see his post almost every week, and he's actually not a bad-looking guy. And actually, I'm so surprised he has these problems with women, but I kind of understand why he does, because every week he goes, I'm just going to be lonely forever. And it's like, oh man, don't put that on Facebook, man. Like no one wants to see that. I don't want to see that. No girl wants to see that. It's like, oh my God, what's wrong with him that he can't get anything that he wants, like ever. Like like it looks terrible. Like don't complain. Just fix the problem. Really just fix the problem. Like when I was younger, I posted this on my article. I'll link to that article down below. I posted some photos of myself when I was younger. There's one in particular. Maybe I'll get my video guy to put it up right now. Like you just have to see how I looked before, and you can see why I was a virgin until I was 21 by this photo. And then I just decided, it's like I didn't complain. I knew that the problem was me. I looked in the mirror, and it wasn't just the mirror. I also didn't know how to socially interact. That's a whole other thing that we can talk about a bit. But just looking in the mirror, I'm like, I'm not going to get a girl. So I just decided to do everything I could to improve myself in every single way, including being successful. I tried to be a rapper in Canada. I was the #2 white rapper in Canada. I did hardcore steroids for a couple months, and I was massive. I was like Jean-Claude Van Damme. In like 2 months, I got my eyes LASIKed, so I didn't have my big thick glasses anymore. I cut off my mullet, and all of a sudden,
Thank God.
all of a sudden things changed, and all of a sudden I'm doing stuff all the time. So I started an internet company, and I'm looking decent, and everything changed overnight. And then I went through a whole period of really enjoying what I had been missing my entire life, and kind of went overboard on that a little bit, all the way up until recently, really, where I just was with every girl in every place I went every single day. Yeah, I kind of, especially when you're a guy, like, you probably don't understand quite how bad it is when you're younger. Around 14 or whenever it kicks in, it is so powerful, this urge, this desire to have sex, to mate. It's a genetic thing that it will overthrow everything in your whole life. And if you, for whatever reason, don't get what you need at that moment in time, you'll start to like go crazy about it. You'll start to like just almost just become psycho about it, really. Like, you just go so nuts because you want it so bad and you can't get it. Like, here, this is sort of a funny story. We have a son here in Mexico, and my wife said that if he's 15 and still a virgin, she's going to hire a prostitute. And I said, that's an awesome idea, because and she said, we won't tell him it's a prostitute. It'll just be like this 18-year-old girl or 16 or whatever. The age down here is different. They don't care. Yeah, and, like, we'll just say, hey, do you like our son? Would you like, $100? And you just sort of like hit on them at a party and get it over with. Because once it's over with, then you can kind of relax a little bit and go, okay, I've seen it, I've done it. I don't have to just think about it every second of every day, but you can really go crazy. And so it's kind of really a difficult thing for men in that respect.
I would say that women have a similar drive at certain other aspects of our life. A lot of women say that when they hit like 28 or so, like, their bodies are like, breed, breed, breed. And so I've noticed a lot of women, when they hit like 27, 28, 29, it's just like, if they're not in a committed relationship, they are fucking so much.
Oh, yeah. I've seen it myself. Just a few months ago, really, there was this...
We're animals.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how, like, it was quite crazy. There was this she's like 33. She still lives at home. She's here in Mexico. And I was doing some business with her father, and we were going somewhere to get something, and all of a sudden she just stopped the truck and like lunged at me with like tongue and lips and everything. And, she's okay looking, but it just wasn't, it didn't feel right, Yeah. And so I kind of like just pushed her away. And then she started crying and saying how she wants a family. And I was like, oh man, but I could see what she's doing wrong. I could totally see it. She sits in her house. She doesn't go to the gym. She's kind of frumpy. She's actually not a bad looking person if she kind of kept herself up. She doesn't really put on much makeup. Not that makeup's super important, but she doesn't always look her best at all. Yeah. And she's always complaining. That's another thing. That's really unattractive. She's always like, why doesn't anyone like me? It's like, oh my God. And there's nothing you can really do. I tried to tell her. It's like, you got to just snap out of it, but some people just don't get it.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking actually is before you were talking about how when a guy hasn't had sex yet, how it impacts his behavior. You ever seen the movie There's Something About Mary?
Yeah.
You remember that like advice? His friend's like, you have to masturbate before the date.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
Honestly, it's decent advice. Like, frankly, like, yeah, I don't know. There's tension, like sexual tension and expectations suck. Like, they're just they suck when it comes to, when you're trying to have a like really sincere interaction with somebody. They really fuck up your game. They really do. Totally
does. And yeah, that's really good advice. And even before like business meetings and stuff, if you're younger and you got so much sexual energy, just get it out, like, because it affects everything and how you're acting. And once it's out, you can kind of relax a little bit for a few hours until you have to do it again or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of funny, all these problems that people have. But hopefully what you're doing, and even what the few things I've been doing, hopefully it gives some people some advice. I don't really see any people out there that are like unfuckable. They just have to put in some effort to improve themselves in certain areas, whether it be their body or their clothes or how they act. And how they act is really important. And this is something that maybe we can talk about. Is I didn't really realize this until I was quite a bit older, well into my 30s, that you, as a man, if you act a certain way, it's sort of called this alpha male thing. And people get this confused. I've looked into it a lot because I was just curious. And a lot of people think alpha male means that you walk in, you start beating people up and stuff. No, that's not what an alpha male is. It's sort of like this style. You're very relaxed. You're smiling. You're joking. You're doing that kind of thing. And it totally brings attraction towards you if you just act a certain way. These are very basic things that people can just learn.
I think that partially the thing is, so I have this saying I say, which is that any man who refers to himself as or other men as alpha
Yeah.
males isn't one. Because the
That's
thing
how the
is that
first way you know a guy isn't an alpha is when he goes, "I'm an alpha male." It's like, okay, yeah, alpha males don't tell you they're alpha male. They
exactly. It's like anyone who tells you that they're like really rich or really
right.
important, and it's like if you are, I'll figure that out.
Yeah, like when a
And
guy walks up and he's like, "Oh, look at my watch. It's like $15,000." Like, oh man, you must be broke because you're trying to like tell me how rich you are. Like, I know billionaires who drive around in pretty crappy cars, and you would never
Oh, yeah.
guess they have any money. And that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
real rich people, most of them, not all, but a lot of them act like.
Yeah. No, the alpha male thing is it's at the end of the day, it's okay, you should care how people perceive you. I think that there is an important factor of like, hey, how am I being perceived? How am I making people feel? That's an important thing to think about. And somewhere along the way, someone told people like, oh, just be yourself and don't give a fuck about the haters. Don't give a fuck about what anyone thinks of you. It's like, no, you have to be aware of what other people think about you, but you shouldn't spend a lot of time comparing yourself to other people. It's not about like competing with other people. It's about just being better yourself, and by being focused on yourself, being focused on improving yourself, basically makes you just like this kind of, oh, you're self-actualized, people want to be around you. And so yeah, I mean, it's alpha. It's at the end of the day, it's just like, I'm sorry, I'm producing a superior product, you want some.
Yeah, basically. And it's funny how people don't really, and I totally agree with you on the awareness of how people perceive you, because I see it all the time. You'll be at a party and a guy will be talking and the story will be really boring and he'll just go on, and you just see people start to fold their arms, they start looking away. Some people even start to filter off, and the guy just keeps going on with this just dumb story that's no one's interested in. It's like, but he doesn't seem to notice it. And I actually had one friend, this is like 20 years ago. He was in his 50s, and I was running an internet company full of like 18-year-old kids. And he talks so slow. So we'd be at a bar, and I'd tell a story. It'd be over in like 20 seconds. It'd be a funny story. Everyone would laugh. Then another person would do it. Then he'd go, well, let me tell you guys about one time. And it'd be like 3 minutes before he even said anything. And you just see everyone's eyes just like glazing over. And yeah. This one time where I actually tried to help someone and it worked. It rarely ever works. And I said to him, and I posed it this way. I said, we're working in a company here with all these 18-year-old kids. These kids have grown up with nothing but information overload constantly. Mm-hmm. They can't take long stories. The story has to be fast and quick and good and just get it over with, And mm-hmm. he took my advice, and after that, he actually really improved how much everyone liked him. After that, not only at my company, but I'm still good friends with him today, and he's much improved because he took my advice. So yeah. A lot of people, though, if you say that to them, they get really angry at you, and they'll say, "Oh, how dare you say that I tell long, boring stories?" It's like, man, to take that advice. That's what you want people to do, is give you that kind of advice. It's or criticism. It's not mm-hmm. if they're telling you that, it's not to hurt you. If they're trying to hurt you, that's different. If they're like, if you can really tell they're trying to hurt you, but they're trying to like help you, that's the kind of information you should want.
Well, I think it's helpful too for me is that I have totally been that person that tells very long stories. I was so my family, again, like libertarian, so of course there was homeschooling and unschooling and such, and so there is certain kind of social things you kind of have to adapt to, and sometimes I was just bad at realizing that people didn't give a fuck about what I was talking about, and I would tell these long stories, and so one of the best pieces of advice I got was from my brother, who had already been through like the kind of social hell and kind of been like, okay, Avens, you need to, if you're gonna tell a long story, it needs to be funny, it needs to be engaging, it needs to be entertaining. And so it actually caused me to become more animated. So when I am going to dominate a conversation for like 5 minutes, I'm gonna make sure it's like the kind of story that's like really funny and it's got people really engaged, and that I'm actually bringing people into it. But I like the fact that I can talk to people about being kind of boring, like, okay, you told a long, boring story, by saying like, I used to do that too. It's totally understandable. Like, how do you make this story?
That's one great way, is to always put it on yourself. So say, I used to do this all the time too. And that takes all the pressure off of them, that you're like picking on them or trying to say that you're better than them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and it works for, you when you told the story of like how you looked and then you're like, oh, I'm not getting the girls I want. And so I'm, tried to improve myself. And I mean, I was a geeky like libertarian chick in my teens. I was a goth kid. I had long hair that didn't really suit me and I wore clothes that didn't really suit me. I mean, I was cute. People could tell I was cute. People were like, "Oh, you're adorable." But I was also kind of an asshole. Like I was just like, "Yeah, I'm smarter than you. What do you want?" Like and like nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So I kind of was like, "All right, like what should I change about myself? What is making me look the best? What making me seem more interesting and getting me invited to parties and so to some degree there's always gonna be something where I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not that chick. Like, but you find out your lines, you find out what you are interested in how you're getting perceived, and you put out there what you want back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you sound a lot like Judd in that way, that he said when he was younger that he was sort of like that, like I'm smarter than everybody, and he probably is, and you probably are smarter than most people from what I can tell, both of you. But to just act that way, that really doesn't attract a lot of people to want to be around you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you have to be, give and take, and social interaction. That's sort of the other thing that we haven't totally touched on is that a lot of people are just socially awkward. When I was younger, because I something happened when I hit puberty. I had acne, I had a mullet, I had thick glasses, I had braces. Like it was a mess. It was a total. It was a total. I was like 120 pounds, about 5'11", like just bones. You just see my ribs sticking through my shirt. And
See, I like skinny boys, but that's me.
well, you wouldn't have liked me at that time.
I probably
No,
the mullet would
nobody was interested. And I thought I was too pale, so I put on like a little blush, and it was totally obvious. So I'm like this skinny, totally pale guy with a bit of blush on that I figured people would think I'd look better, and it was just a mess. And I think because of that, and also I was always on my computer all day and all night. I was a total computer nerd, and so I didn't really get out much. I didn't really talk to anyone much except for on my computer. And so when it came time to go out in public, I became incredibly shy. I was so shy that I couldn't even go to the store and ask for something. Like if I needed something, I wouldn't ask the person. I just look for hours if I had to, because I was too scared to even talk to them. And I got to the point where I'm like, this is not good. This is not going to get me what I want in life. It's just not good. I have to change this. And I always try to do the most extreme thing possible when I want to change something. So I was really into rap music at the time. It had just come out, Run DMC and Grandmaster Flash. And I was like, this is awesome. And where I'm from, it was all heavy metal people, headbangers and all those things. And so all of a sudden I showed up at school one day. I had cut all my hair off pretty much. I had this big fake gold chain from like Zeller's, like a woman's belt as a chain. I had like the Adidas with like no things. And I started rapping. And it just made me get out there more. And because I was a rapper and I was supposed to open for MC Hammer in 1989, I believe, but he canceled that concert. I would have been opening in front of like 15,000 people. And through that, I became more outgoing, and it got me through my shyness. And so, but a lot of people don't work on themselves in that respect. And I think social awkwardness is a real problem in the libertarian community, and something that people should be trying to work on. Because if we're going to try to improve the world, we have to be able to sell what we're talking about. If we can't, if we can't get across our points very well in public, we're all the status, Barack Obama and all these guys can talk. They're total con men, but they can talk, and so that's one area of improvement that a lot of people probably should look into.
Well, and again, shyness. I was tremendously shy as a teen. I actually didn't get over it till I was in college, and I started college a bit early because unschooling. So I was a teenager, and I was terribly shy. I was in college, and I literally would tremble when people spoke to me. That's how scared I was of people. And so I'd be in class, and I would sit in the back of the classroom, and I'd my professor would be talking about something, and I would be like, all right, I'm going to speak. And it would take everything I had to do it. And it drove me nuts, because I was like, I really want to engage with people, and I really want to talk to people. And so the thing I did was I forced myself to join a bunch of student organizations, because I felt that from a position of I'm trying to do something. I'm not just trying to engage with people. Like I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to get people to join the computer club in college. I figured that would kind of give me this a little bit of authority where I could just be like, I'm going to speak to you about something I'm offering you. And so I started. I joined the computer club. I joined the student senate. I joined the international club, which was really odd because I'm totally American. What's funny is because of the computer club, I was the only girl in the computer club. And after a little bit of time, we were trying to set up a Wi-Fi network at my college, and I had to kind of engage with the professors, with the school administrators, with fellow students, get them to sign like a petition, and I just had to get out there. I had to do it, and so it was this kind of necessity, and I was like, yeah, like I can do this. And by the end of my time at that college, it was 2 year. I did my associate's degree, so I was 17 when I graduated, and the whole student body knew me at that point, and I had a nickname because I wore a hat all the time, so I was Hat Girl, and
that's a pretty creative nickname.
Well, no, the thing was that no one could pronounce my name. They're like, Avens, what the hell is that? And so Hat Girl, I was the girl with the hat. I used to put it on student on little bulletin boards and stuff. I'd say, hey, computer club is looking for new members. Contact Hat Girl, and it was so funny because people were into it. So my graduation cap, I wrote Hat Girl's new hat on it. And so at my graduation, I went up and people were cheering because I was the youngest graduate. And everyone knew who I was. And but 2 years prior, I've been so shy. I would tremble if people talked to me, and then suddenly I'm going up and getting my diploma. Though I am terrified of public speaking still, just for the record.
That's interesting. You can definitely tell that you've gotten over your shyness. I think it was Judd who said that in the last year he had 60,000 texts from you. Definitely, I enjoy talking to you, but I almost, when I see you message me, I kind of get a little scared. Is this going to be hours of, I get into the conversation too, but I know it's just going to be a long conversation with you every time I talk to you, even this Anarchast. Yeah, you definitely aren't shy and quiet anymore. Mm-mm. So with the public speaking, that's interesting because, I was I'm still kind of shy in a way. It's still a part of who I am. I'm not, when I go out and I do all these things, I go to conferences and I speak and stuff, it's not natural for me at all. Although I've done it literally hundreds of times now, so it actually is pretty natural. It's pretty easy, but it's just not a norm. I don't want to do it. It's not something I really enjoy is being out and speaking in front of a lot of people. But for some reason, I never had too much of a problem with public speaking. Although when I did my first speech ever on my latest life, which is the Dollar Vigilante, when I started that in 2010, I said to myself, I got to get out to some of these conferences and tell people what I'm doing. And I was quite well known in Canada from past businesses I had done, so I knew all the people. And they said, yeah, sure, of course you can speak. We don't know what you're doing now, but yeah, go ahead. And so I walk up and I had an iPad, and I'd written my whole speech on the iPad, and they put me at 7:45 in the morning on the first day, and and you could just see people just coming in with a coffee. No one had really woken up yet, and I go, hello, and I put my head down, and I didn't lift my head up again until I was done, a half hour later, just reading the speech. I looked up, half the people had left, the other half were so stunned and shocked and horrified at what they had gone through that I said, I can never do that to people again. And so I actually, before my next speech, right before it, I hired a speech coach, and she said, okay, show me what you do. And I said, okay, and I put my head down, I look at the iPad, she goes, you're just reading your speech? I said, yeah, isn't that how you're supposed to? Like Barack Obama, you just read it off a teleprompter? She's like, well, no, the best speeches are you just talk. And she asked me, she goes, you know what you're talking about, right? I said, yeah, I think I know what I'm talking about. She goes, then just talk. And so she goes, but don't do it. Your speech is in a half an hour. Don't do it this time. Go ahead and do it the way you normally do. But the next time, just talk. So I walked up, again, same situation, kind of early in the morning. I looked at the crowd. I was like, oh, these poor people. I put my head down. I was just about to start reading, and my finger went to the power button. I turned it off. I took a deep breath. I just started talking, and it actually went really well. And by the end, people were laughing and clapping, and I was like, oh my God. And that, just one little thing. I just took, it was a half an hour with a speech coach just to tell me a few tips, and changed everything. So these things can happen so quickly if you want to change.
Oh yeah, no, I forget everything I was about to say when I get up in front of people. I'm dead serious. Anything. I'm still not even good at video interviewing stuff, because I have all sorts of ideas that I want to articulate, and then my brain suddenly goes, okay, I'm thinking about something else already, and you're trying to talk about whatever that. Like my brain is always going too much, which is why I like written word. I love writing. You know, I've been writing I wrote on for Thoughts on Liberty, or for the Libertarian Republic, and my own blog. And my own blog has a lot of personal stories about getting over certain like fears and experiences, but it's all that my brain goes too fast and my mouth can't keep up, so I have to write it. I have to write it.
Well, one tip if you do public speaking is just, you know generally what you want to talk about, right, before the speech. So just write down like the 5 key points that you want to get across and sort of have an idea of how you're going to get to each point and put it on like a little card or something. So if you get going and you start to like stumble and forget like how you wanted to tie all this together, you just look down and you remember that was what you wanted to get across. And you might stumble a little bit, but you'll at least get the main points out. Yeah. So a little tip for you. We can talk forever as always. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrap this up?
I don't know if we hit on all the stuff that's about, you know, your us libertarians not appealing to other people. I think we've gotten most of it.
Yeah, I think most of the main points.
I assume you'll put the links in the bottom of the video description.
We'll put it down below.
It's funny, I actually work with YouTube all the time, so that's my day job. So I'm constantly used to like coaching video creators to put the links at the bottom. Yeah, subscribe. Get all your news here.
So why don't you just let people know where, because you write on a number of websites, I believe, and anything else?
I do. So actually, you can find all of my published writing on avensobrien.com. That's AVENSOBRIEN. You'll have it on the video description. And then I write for the Libertarian Republic. I've been doing that for, a month or two now. And that's where those articles are. And I've got some fun lists coming out. I like to come up with controversial lists. And then I did write for Thoughts on Liberty. I haven't been doing that anymore, but I have some really good pieces up there that I reference all the time. But again, you can find them on avensobrien.com. And actually, my personal blog is called tasteitTwice.com, which people are always confused by why I call it that, but it's a quote. So that's where you can find my stuff. And yeah, that's it, really.
That's great. I actually just remembered one thing that maybe can be useful to some people. And it is, I go to a lot of conferences, not so many anymore because it's just too tiring and too stressful to be traveling and doing all these things. But I've been to so many, and I'm kind of well known at some of them, and some of them I'm almost famous in the circle of the place.
The Libertarian.
Yeah, the Libertarian or whatever. And or for my other thing, the Dollar Vigilante, I'm quite well known.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll be at conferences and I can see like this person and they're kind of standing off to the side and you can tell that they're like so excited to see you. And you can just see what's going on in their mind. They're like, they want to talk to you, but they're so scared. And that makes me feel awkward too, because they're just sitting there. They feel all this energy and it's like, but they won't come and talk to you. I actually try to make an effort to go and talk to them if I see that. But the one sort of tip I want to give people is don't be shy to talk to people. It doesn't matter who the person is. Doug Casey told me that he feels like he says, I feel like a wallflower at some of my own conferences. He says, I feel so awkward because everyone else is so awkward around me. And don't be shy. Just, we're regular people, a lot of us. And, if you want to talk to someone,
we're just as weird as you. That's the other thing. We're just as weird as the people that are trying to talk to us.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, not at all. And, so just don't be shy. And another thing, like, don't come up and just like give gratitudes or platitudes to people like that. Like if you come up to Doug Casey, don't just go, oh, I think you're the best. I've been following you for 40 years. I love you so much. Like, of course he likes to hear that. It's fine, but you don't have to do all that sort of stuff. Like pretty much he'll know or we'll know if you really like us anyway. Just act like a normal conversation. Just have a, how are you? Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Here's what I'm doing. That's sort of a thing. Just get out there and do it. And if you're a really shy person, just get out there and just force yourself to be in situations where you have to talk to people. Like Avens said, join a club or get a job at like McDonald's, like as cashier, where you have to talk to like hundreds of people a day. And pretty quickly you get pretty good at it, and especially if you're trying. So my last little piece of advice. And so hopefully in the future libertarian conferences, it'll be a lot more casual and a lot more fun and a lot less awkward and shyness and a lot more love going on, although there is a fair amount of love at some of these conferences. Things can get a little wild sometimes too, so that's good. Yeah, so that's it. I'd like to really thank Avens. A really great conversation. I'm glad that we had this conversation. I think it was a necessary conversation to have for this community, and hopefully it can help some people out there. So that's it for Anarchast. And then please remember to share, subscribe, like. That's really how we can get these ideas out there and really grow our peaceful movement. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.